What happens to retirement accounts and other long-term investments when paper wealth is collapsing? This could be the single most important question facing current and future retirees. Yet it's almost ignored in conventional financial planning. I've been working with this issue for many years now. And if you'll stick with me for a few minutes, we're going to take a unique look at the vital issue of how real wealth is redistributed between people when paper wealth is collapsing, the implications for you, and a radically different approach to finding personal solutions. Let's start by talking about the real economy. And by the real economy, I mean the real goods and services that are actually produced and consumed. And that kind of bounces up and down over time, but it's reasonably stable over the long term. It's been running about 2% per year on an after inflation and per capita basis in the United States. Paper wealth is quite different. Paper wealth could be the value of your stock portfolio or maybe the value of your home. And paper wealth can bounce quite radically up and down in boom and bust cycles over time that may not have all that much correlation with what the real economy is doing. So what is happening when paper wealth is moving radically and the real economy isn't? Well, the result is something that's critically important for investors in times of financial crisis, and that is the redistribution of wealth. For instance, let's say that you're a stock market investor or a real estate investor in Las Vegas and things are going up, up, up. Well, your rights to consume, your rights to real wealth are rising much faster than the economy as a whole. So your share is rising rapidly. Now stick with me because this is vital for your future. If your rights are shooting up, but the real economy isn't, that means that somebody else's rights has to be going down or the numbers don't add up. That is the necessary relationship between paper wealth and real wealth. Because the stock market soars or real estate market climbs up, that doesn't mean our real wealth changed, but it does have an entirely real effect for individuals because some people have an increased chance to have a very good standard of living and others have a decreased chance. Now, when the direction of paper wealth reverses, as it always eventually has to, just the reverse occurs. Then, if you're a stock market investor, your rights to real wealth are plunging down. But because the economy has not moved nearly as much, it may not have moved at all, and your rights are falling fast, that means there's an entirely different group of people who just had their rights increased. So as you lost the right to wealth from the real economy, someone else necessarily picked up that right in a redistribution of actual wealth. Let's go back to the real economy, but this time we'll say that we hit a real pothole, like maybe what's been happening right now, maybe the pothole of a century, and the real economy is hit badly before it begins to recover, if at all. Some may say this is the current situation. Now, let's say that before this happened, the stock market had been at a very high level, and paper wealth plunges even as the real economy falls. This is a situation for tens of millions of people right now. Now, let's take an average, somewhat older investor. Let's say a 55-year-old, and let's say that he or she has done a really good job of following the conventional financial wisdom, and they've built a significant portfolio of stocks that have been pummeled by what's going on in the market. Their paper wealth has plunged, meaning their rights to real wealth have been redistributed to others. Next, let's assume that this 55-year-old owns a nice home, and like most nice homes in the country, it's been falling in value, much more so than the economy as a whole. And again, what that means is the relative rights to wealth of our 55-year-old have plunged relative to the real economy, and those rights have been redistributed to other people. Now let's take it one step further and look at this world of government that can't possibly pay for its retirement promises, that can't pay for the bailout and stimulus packages, and where the Federal Reserve is currently creating money out of thin air to buy Treasury bonds. we're risking a very high rate of inflation. And as I've extensively written about elsewhere, inflation is a redistribution of wealth that hits older people the hardest. For all too many tens of millions of good, hard-working people, this is exactly what their real situation is. The value of their portfolios have been devastated. The value of their homes have plunged, and they fear what's going to happen to the dollar because of the irresponsible actions of the United States government. I wrote my first book of vigorous disagreement with the conventional financial wisdom back in 1993. And one of my reasons for that is that what the conventional financial wisdom does is it concentrates our risk. It concentrates our exposure to a destruction of paper wealth. So I searched for solutions. The problem I ran into as a CFA and MBA with what is now over 25 years of financial experience was that I didn't initially have the answers because my training was all about concentrating risk, even if it was never actually described that way. So that got me to thinking. I was really interested in this group over here. The group that was getting wealth redistributed to them even as retirement age investors were seeing their wealth plunge. Who are they? Well, in this short presentation, we don't have the time to go there, but let me say that the people in this situation are there almost entirely by happenstance because of their age, their position in life, the particular makeup of their financial assets and liabilities, and so forth. And as I searched for answers, the question that really began to intrigue me was, is there a way to change this from being happenstance to being deliberate? Were there deliberate actions that someone could take to change their profile so they were in this group, so that fundamental economic forces were redistributing wealth to them even as paper wealth was being destroyed for other people? What changes could you make to your financial profile to make this happen? Ultimately, I became convinced there were a series of practical, understandable steps that an average person could take to radically change their financial profile so that in an environment where paper wealth was being destroyed, real wealth was being redistributed to them on the most fundamental of bases. But to get there, two things have to happen. One of them is you have to recognize the conventional wisdom isn't going to work for you. All that's going to do is to continue to concentrate your risk. The second thing that you need is education. You need to understand how you can get from here to there. Where do you get this education? Well, it's not in the mainstream financial media, but it can be found in step-by-step detail in a book that is different from anything else you've ever read before. The book is called The Turning Inflation into Wealth Mini Course, and the best news of all is that it's free. If you'd like your own free copy, just go to my website, danielammerman.com. Good luck to you in these perilous times.